Using this exact framework, I was able to book 183 opportunities in about a 9-month period. I'm going to take you through what I call my 1 meeting per day script. This is a framework that every single cold call can fit into. And the reason is because there's 3 distinct phases: the opener, the conversation, and the close. So this straight line call script is here for anyone who wants to be able to break through all the noise and be understood by your prospect in a way that's compelling and influences them to want to take action. I used to work for a company called Stylo where I was cold calling every single day to generate new opportunities. We had 0 customers, no revenue. It was all on the backs of outbound that we eventually grew the company to a point where we're able to actually raise $3 million on a $12 million valuation from nothing. And in the span of about 9 months, calling about 1 to 3 hours a day, I was able to book 183 opportunities for the company. I took that script and turned it into a framework for you to take and use for yourself so that you can apply it to your company and see the same success that I saw. So in the 3-phase call, you got 3 main parts. To nail this first phase, you need 2 tools: the permission-based opener and a good transition question. Now, the reason why this is the first phase is because it is distinctly different than what everyone imagines a cold call is about. Most of us, when we're starting, think that I'm going to be cold calling, having lots of conversations with prospects. And then we get into it, and sure enough, we realize that we're having very few conversations. This phase gets you to the conversation. Now, one disclaimer: you don't have to use a PBO, a permission-based opener. However, I went out and tested these myself. 6 different call openers, a mix between some permission-based, asking, can I have permission to continue the call, and some that weren't. And I saw about a 21% increase in people saying, sure, go ahead, when I used a permission-based opener. So in my experience, ask permission to start the call and tell them why you were calling. Now, the second phase, once they say go ahead, every single prospect has this question on their mind, and you have to answer it. Because if you don't, they will not come along with you for the ride. They will not be there in the next part of the call. They're still going to wonder, who is this and what is this about? And the way that I like to answer that is with a question. I call this the transition. Now, the beauty of the transition is it helps guide your prospect to understanding, what are we talking about today? But it helps you too. A good transition question asks, hey, before I jump into it all, I just want to make sure this is actually relevant to you. 1, I'm checking that I got the right person. 2, I'm checking that they care about the general topic I'm about to get into. And 3, and most importantly, I'm letting them know what the call is about by asking this question. This ends the first phase and brings us to the part that we all want to have, the main conversation. All right, congrats. You got through those first 7 to 30 seconds, and now you're ready for the conversation, but you got to make sure it's the right conversation. So we're going to probe for pain and provoke for a solution. I'm calling with a specific solution in mind to a problem that you might have. Do you have this problem? And that is the next step, the probing question. When I used to work with Stylo, we had a tool that was sentiment analysis for customer support teams, reading customers' feelings. So I would say to them, out of curiosity, when it comes to spotting the most upset customer you have, from the thousands of cases you get every day, do you already have a way to find them before it becomes a full-blown fire drill? I'm asking a question to probe. Is this a challenge or not? You're going to get 2 kinds of answers to this. The person who says, yes, we do, or they'll say something which is less common to hear, which is, no, we don't have a way to do that. That's okay. Actually, that was the reason for my call. And we'll get into the next step here, the provoke, with that transition line. Don't use any marketing buzzwords or jargon. It should be so simple that almost a total stranger who doesn't know anything about what you do could, in theory, understand what it is you're talking about. Now, the provoke is all about the future, and we're going to use that theory to our advantage here. And we're going to try to write a provocative question about the future all around loss or pain avoidance. First, a transition statement into the provoke. Have you ever considered sentiment AI, real-time customer emotion scoring that sees your upset customers in real time and lets you know about them? Any AI like that on your radar today? This began the conversation. Okay, so now we've got some level of interest and curiosity. It's time to turn that into action. This is the third phase, closing with confidence. We actually shift back now here to asking closed-ended questions yet again. Now, some words of advice here and tips from the front lines and from the trenches. When you're asking for time, try these tips. Instead of saying, do you have 30 minutes for a demo sometime? Instead, be specific, use emotional anchoring, and go for no. So specific with the time, dramatic or extreme language that calls up an emotion so that when they hear that, they think, oh, that wasn't so bad. And go for no, meaning I don't want to ask, do you have time? I want to say, would it be crazy if we found 30 minutes? And if they say no, it wouldn't be crazy. That no is essentially a yes. All of these together create I call it the path of least resistance. It's an easier way for the prospect to now move confidently with you forward to take action. Here's how it sounds. Based on what we just talked about, would it be totally insane if we found 30 minutes sometime next week? Maybe Monday afternoon or Wednesday morning? I just pulled up in my calendar. Do either of those times work for you? So I'm shifting the conversation away from what they're curious about now to scheduling. Here's the next key. If possible, you want to make sure to exchange that time for something else. Let's hear how that sounds. And I'm going to give an example as if I'm selling cold call training to a CRO. Hey, Jane, based on what we just talked about now, would it be totally insane if we found 30 minutes sometime next week where I'll make sure that at a minimum, you're walking away with a high-performing call script for your team where they could see a much better chance at booking at least one meeting a day? I just pulled up in my calendar. Do you have Wednesday morning, anytime before 11 a.m. or even Monday afternoon open? So as you see there, what I did is I'm actually trying to offer something in exchange for the call, for the time. In addition to going through together, do you need this service when we actually go over the details of what it includes? Now, the reason why I do this is because I want to make sure that the prospect has something of value in their mind in addition to the information that they're going to get on the call so that they have an additional incentive to show up. All right, so now we're going to move to the final phase, which I like to call confirmation. We're still in that third phase of closing, but the reason why I do this last step is to just increase my overall standing with the prospect again, to make sure that they know, hey, we're on equal footing here. It also tells them what to expect on the call, and it helps me get to a close without missing any important details along the way. Here's what it sounds like. All right, so I just pulled open my calendar. How does Monday afternoon around 3 p.m. or Wednesday morning around 10:30 a.m. work for you? I let them respond, and then I keep going. All right, great. I'm going to send over a calendar invitation for us right now. I just hit send on it. Will you let me know if you see it? The event name says Ronen Jane Call. And I just sent it to jsmith@acme.com. Is that the best email for you still? So now what I'm doing is I'm asking them to go look for the event as I send it to them with them on the call, and I confirm the email. Reason why you want to do this is make sure you don't have any missing information that could technically get in the way of them not seeing the invite. And then I go on. All right, awesome. Hey, one last thing before you go here. Look, I know things come up all the time. I'm really looking forward to this chat, but should anything change on your end, will you do me one huge favor? Will you let me know before we go to sit down and chat if you need to reschedule or you just want to cancel altogether? I just don't want to be left waiting for you on the line wondering if you're going to show up or not. Is it fair to count on you for that? Now, here's where I'm raising the bar once more, putting myself at the same level as the prospect. My time is just as valuable as yours. It's only fair if you let me know in advance if you can't make it. So follow these steps, and what you'll see is a higher show rate, and you'll have an easier way to get through the end of the call where you can feel confident about closing and your prospect will feel confident about showing up. All right, so some final pro tips from doing this year after year and watching so many cold callers successfully implement this. The first and the third phase, you're doing most of the talking. It's meant to feel a little bit like a ping pong match. There's a lot of back and forth. And the back and forth from the prospect is closed-ended yes/no questions. But in the middle phase, when you're opening up the conversation with your first and only open-ended question, this is where the prospect does majority of the talking. So your talk to listen time ratio is going to shift depending on which phase you're in, and that's okay. But as an aggregate, you almost want it to land pretty close to 50-50. The second tip is for any verbiage, anytime you're stuck about what to write, here's the rule. Simple, direct, and relevant to that person's role. Now, if you can be specific as well, that's better. But don't be specific at the cost of using big words that are confusing. And the last tip, try to use pauses, hard stops after any question. So don't roll past that stop sign. Hit the brakes and wait a second after you ask a question. The number of times I get messages from people all over LinkedIn, YouTube, and just in my inbox when they say, wow, I literally tried this today and booked 2 meetings. Or I tried this and it works. It really is so fulfilling for me to see that come to fruition. You can have this kind of success too, which is why I'm giving away the script for free. So give it a download, check it out, and I would love to hear from you. Happy dialing.